Ice Cube versus N.W.A. Ice Cube might have been the youngest in N.W.A, but he was the one behind the lyrics. Those early tracks we all loved, Cube wrote a lot of them, even Eazy-E's bars. By the late 80s, Cube noticed something was off. The money wasn't adding up, and it all pointed back to Jerry Heller, the group's manager. In '89, Jerry offered Cube a contract, 75 G's. To most people, that sounds like a lot, but Cube was like, hold up, we just went platinum. You really think that's what I'm worth? He turned it down and never looked back. He wanted Dre to produce his solo album, but Jerry and Eazy kept getting in the way. So he went out east and linked with the Bomb Squad, the producers behind Public Enemy. In 1990, he dropped America's Most Wanted. That album went platinum, and Cube proved he could do it alone. At first, he didn't even take shots at N.W.A. He just did his own thing, but the group couldn't let it go. On 100 Miles and Runnin', they called him Benedict Arnold, basically trying to rage bait him. And yeah, it definitely worked. Cube finally fired back. In 1991, he dropped the iconic diss track No Vaseline, where he pretty much took shots at the whole crew. Dre, Ren, Yella, Eazy, and even Jerry caught strays. The whole song was basically Cube saying, "You're getting f***ed out your own green by a white boy with no Vaseline." After that, N.W.A went quiet. Cube shut the whole crew up. DJ Yella admitted later they had something written, but it never came out, which honestly was probably the right move. Cause how could you come back from No Vaseline? To this day, it's ranked as one of the hardest diss tracks ever made. By '92, N.W.A was done. Cube was thriving solo, Dre left and built Death Row, and Eazy was left trying to keep Ruthless alive. And just like that, N.W.A was history. Dr. Dre versus Eazy-E. When Cube left, the cracks in N.W.A only got bigger. Dre was frustrated. He felt stuck at Ruthless. He was making hits but not getting what he thought he deserved. Meanwhile, Jerry Heller was siding with Eazy, and Dre started feeling like he was being used. In '91, Suge Knight stepped in. He was managing artists like the DOC, and he wanted Dre out of his Ruthless deal. Some people close to Ruthless say Suge pulled up with goons, threatened Eazy, and used intimidation to get the contract released. Either way, Dre was out, and Death Row Records was born. Dre wasted no time firing shots. On his debut album, The Chronic in 1992, he dropped Dre Day. The track clowned Eazy as Sleazy E, painted him as broke, and made it sound like Ruthless was finished. The video even had an Eazy lookalike actor being mocked. Eazy didn't stay quiet though. He came back with real motherfucking G's in 1993, calling Dre a studio gangsta, clowning him for leaving Ruthless, and even brought in BG Knockout and Dresta to add fuel. The funny thing is, Eazy still owned a part of Dre's publishing. So while Dre was dissing him, Eazy-E was cashing checks off The Chronic. The beef dragged on in interviews and subliminals, but it never had a real ending. By '95, things cooled down when Eazy-E got diagnosed with AIDS. He passed away shortly after. Before he died, he and Dre reportedly talked and made peace. DJ Quik versus MC Eiht. While Dre and Eazy were going at it, another beef was heating up in Compton. This one wasn't about contracts or labels, it was street politics. DJ Quik rep the Treetop Pyrus, a blood set. MC Eiht was tied to the Tragnew Park Compton Crips. So when they traded disses, it wasn't just rap, it was gang politics too. It started with little subliminals. Quik threw shots on his early tapes. Eiht fired back with the Death Wish series, getting darker each time. Then, Quik dropped Dollars and Cents in '95. He dissed Eiht's name, flow, and basically told him he was finished. Vibe magazine even called it one of the most disrespectful diss tracks ever. Eiht clapped back, but the damage was already done. Quik landed the heavier blow, and the beef stayed heated throughout the '90s. The crazy part is how long it dragged out. It wasn't squashed until years later, when both of them had already moved on in their careers. But at its peak, Quik vs. Eiht showed how local Compton rivalries could spill over into the music industry, and make for some of the most personal disses in the West Coast history. East Coast versus West Coast. While these local beefs were going on in Compton, a bigger war was brewing. East Coast versus West Coast. Tension had been in the air since the early '90s. Tim Dog dropped Compton in 1991, taking shots at West Coast Raptors. That track lit the match. By '95, things were fully split. At the Source Awards, Suge Knight took the stage and fired a shot at Diddy. Any artists out there that want to be an artist and want to stay a star and don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all in the records, dancing, come to Death Row. The New York crowd booed, and the line between East and West was drawn. Things escalated fast. The Dog Pound shot the video for New York, and NYC, and people actually shot at the set. It was real tension, not just rap talk. The East Coast versus West Coast feud ran deeper than just music. It was Death Row versus Bad Boy, Snoop versus Nas, even magazines fanning the flames. The media ran with it, painting it like a rap civil war. And the two rappers who became the face of that war, Tupac and Biggie. Tupac versus Biggie. Pac and Biggie actually started as friends. Pac looked out for Big early on, even bringing him on stage before he blew up. They hung out, smoked together, even recorded music. But by late 94, everything flipped. That November, Pac was headed to Quad Studios in New York to record a verse for a friend. As he walked into the lobby, 3 men ran up on him. Pac got shot 5 times and robbed. He somehow survived, crawled to the elevator and made it upstairs. And that's where Biggie and Puff just happened to be recording. From Pac's perspective, that was too much of a coincidence. He felt set up, like people around Bad Boy knew something and didn't warn him. In interviews, Pac even said, "They knew I was coming. Nobody told me nothing." Biggie always denied it. He claimed he had no idea Pac was even coming that night, but Pac didn't believe him and the friendship was over. A few months later, Biggie dropped "Who Shot Ya?" He swore it wasn't about Pac, but the timing couldn't have been worse. Pac took it as a direct shot and the trust was gone for good. When Pac got out of prison in 95, he signed a death row and things got even messier. In 96, he dropped Hit 'Em Up, going after Biggie, Diddy, and the whole Bad Boy camp. That song changed rap beef forever. Pac did not hold back. He called out Bad Boy by name, went after Biggie's marriage, and even said he slept with Faith Evans. It wasn't just the verses too. At the end of the track, Pac completely loses it. He starts going off on the whole camp. Bad Boy, Chino XL, Junior Mafia, basically anyone in his line of sight. At that point, it didn't even sound like a song. It sounded like Pac declaring war. Biggie never fired back directly. He kept things to subliminals, interviews, and songs like Long Kiss Goodnight. But the war between them only got uglier. In September 1996, Pac was shot and killed in Las Vegas. 6 months later, Biggie was murdered in LA. Neither case has been officially solved. Jay-Z versus Nas. When Biggie died in 97, New York needed a new king. And the two names fighting for that spot were Jay-Z and Nas. The tension went back a few years. Jay wanted Nas to appear on Reasonable Doubt for the track Bring It On. Nas never showed up. That small slight grew into something bigger, and over time, the competition between them only got sharper. It started small. Jay sampled Nas's voice on Dead Presidents. Nas was not feeling that. Then Jay's guy Memphis Bleak threw subliminals. Nas sent some back, and the tension just sat there, waiting to blow. By 2001, it finally did. At Summer Jam, Jay performed Takeover live. On the screen behind him, he put up a photo of Prodigy from Mobb Deep, dressed as a kid at ballet camp. The crowd went crazy, and in the track, Jay went at Nas directly. One hot album every 10-year average. Basically saying Nas fell off. Nas fired back with Ether. He called Jay fake, ugly, desperate, even clowning him for always following trends. Lines like "you a fan, a phony, a fake, a p***y, a stan." It was 4 minutes of straight disrespect, and it hit so hard the word ethered became slang. Jay dropped Super Ugly as a response. He bragged about sleeping with Nas's baby mom, Carmen, but instead of winning points, it backfired. Even Jay's mom told him he crossed the line. He actually went on Hot 97 and apologized. The beef cooled after that, and by 2005, they squashed it completely. Jay even brought Nas out at a concert, and they performed together like nothing happened. 50 Cent versus Ja Rule. If rap beefs had a petty hall of fame, 50 Cent versus Ja Rule would be front and center. It started in Queens in the late 90s. Ja said 50 tried to rob him. 50 said Ja got mad because he saw him hanging with someone who robbed him. From there, it was on site. In 1999, 50 dropped Life's on the Line, taking shots at Ja. Things turned physical too. Fights broke out in New York, and 50 even got stabbed in a studio brawl with Murder Inc. affiliates. By the early 2000s, 50 turned it into music. When he came in with Wanksta and then In the Club, he wasn't just dissing, he was taking Ja's whole lane. Ja had been running the radio with love songs and rap R&B hooks. 50 mocked that, made the same kind of hits, and even made Ja look soft at the same time. Ja fired back with tracks like Loose Change, calling out 50, Eminem, and Dr. Dre. But by then, the damage was already done. 50's debut, Get Rich or Die Tryin', exploded, and Murder Inc.'s rep started collapsing. And 50 didn't stop. He kept pressing Ja on songs. Back Down, the Hail Mary remix with M and Busta, even G-Unit joints like I Smell Every few months there was another shot. On top of that, he made trolling Ja a part of his brand. He roasted him in interviews, skits, even music videos. Years later, he kept it going online. The most famous move, 50 bought 200 front row Ja Rule concert tickets just so the seats would be empty. There's that petty 50 we all know. In the end, Ja Rule never recovered his spot at the top. 50 didn't just win the beef, he turned it into a career-long running joke. 50 Cent versus The Game. 50 wasn't just beefing with Ja Rule, he even turned on his own team. In 2005, 50 helped launch The Game's career. Game's debut album, The Documentary, had hits like Hate It or Love It and How We Do with 50. On paper, they were unstoppable. But behind the scenes, things fell apart fast. Game didn't want a part in 50's beefs with Ja Rule, Nas, Fat Joe, and Jadakiss. He tried to stay neutral, and 50 saw that as disloyal. In March 2005, 50 went on Hot 97 and announced he was kicking Game out of G-Unit, live on air. That same night, a shootout happened outside the station. From there, it was all-out war. Game dropped 300 bars and run in freestyle, going for 15 minutes straight at 50 and G-Unit. He kept it going with the GU-Not campaign, clowning them on stage, flashing the hand sign, even paying kids to hold GU-Not posters in New York. 50 fired back with disses, interviews, and non-stop trolling. He made mocking Game part of his brand, and the beef became just as big as the music. At one point, 50 and Game even did a press conference together on stage, saying they were squashing the beef. There's even a photo of them shaking hands, but everyone knew it was fake. The beef kept going right after. Years later, they had moments of peace, but the damage was done. Instead of building an empire together, 50 and Game turned G-Unit into another rap beef headline. Gucci Mane versus Jeezy. In the South, the most infamous beef wasn't about New York or West Coast. It was Gucci versus Jeezy. Back in 2005, they linked up for the song Eiht. But when it came to put it on an album, things went south. Gucci wanted it on his project. Jeezy wanted it on his. The song blew up, but the partnership fell apart. Jeezy dropped Stay Strapped, basically putting a $10,000 bounty on Gucci's chain. Not long after, 4 men broke into Gucci's house. Gucci shot back in self-defense, killing one of the attackers, who turned out to be one of Jeezy's associates, Pookie Loke. From there, the beef was serious. Gucci taunted Jeezy about it in songs like The Truth, rapping about sending Pookie home in a box. Jeezy denied setting Gucci up, but the tension never died. For years, the two traded disses and kept the rivalry alive. But in 2020, in one of the most shocking versus battles ever, Gucci and Jeezy shared the same stage. Gucci even performed The Truth right in front of Jeezy, bringing up the Pookie Loke incident on live stream with millions watching. Somehow, they made peace that night, at least publicly. But Gucci versus Jeezy will always be remembered as one of the most dangerous beefs in rap history. Drake versus Meek Mill. In 2015, one tweet set off one of the biggest beefs of the decade. It started with Rico, the track Drake did for Meek's album. Drake sent his verse, but when the album dropped, he didn't promote it, and Meek took that personal. He went online and claimed Drake didn't even write his own raps, saying Quentin Miller was ghostwriting for him. In hip-hop, that's one of the worst things you can say. Drake didn't waste time. First, he dropped Charged Up, calm, calculated, like a warning shot. Then, just a few days later, he dropped the legendary track Back to Back. It wasn't just a diss track, it was a club and radio hit, and even Grammy nominated. Drake had people chanting diss bars like, "Is that a world tour or your girl's tour?" Trigger fingers turned to Twitter fingers. Every line was essentially a meme. The cover art was petty too. The Blue Jays beating the Phillies, Toronto over Philly. It was trolling with national pride. Meek fired back with Wanna Know, but it flopped. Fans were clowning him online and it made it worse. Drake even performed back-to-back at OVO Fest, with memes of Meek playing in the background. By the time it ended, Drake had done the unthinkable. He won a rap beef with hits instead of just bars. Years later, the two finally made peace. In 2018, they reunited on Going Bad. That song was a hit, and the video was even bigger, showing Meek and Drake side by side in suits, looking like mob bosses instead of rivals. After years of memes and back and forths, the beef ended with them both on top. Drake versus Kendrick Lamar. Drake versus Kendrick has been brewing for over a decade, but in 2024, it finally blew up into one of the most viral rap beefs ever. It really started back in 2013, when Kendrick dropped his Control verse. He called out Drake by name, saying he was coming for the crown. It was a bold move, but Drake was already dominating the charts worldwide. Over the years, they sent subliminals. Drake with tracks like The Language and Tuscan Leather. Kendrick answered with songs like The Heart Part 4, hinting at ghostwriting, but the tension stayed low-key. Then 2024 happened. Kendrick dropped Like That with Future and Metro Boomin, sparking the internet and pointing shots at Drake and J. Cole. Drake came back swinging with push-ups and tailor-made freestyle. He dissed Kendrick's height, his lack of mainstream presence, and even flexed with AI voices of Snoop and Pac, showing he wasn't afraid to get experimental. Kendrick fired off with Euphoria, 616 in LA, Meet the Grahams, and They Not Like Us. The bars were sharp, no doubt, but Drake answered with The Heart Part 6, flipping narratives and reminding people when it comes to longevity, consistency in hits, hits. He's in a league of his own. At the end of the day, Kendrick had the internet hyped, but Drake walked away untouched where it mattered most. Arenas still packed, streams still through the roof, and another chapter added to his legacy. So that's some of the biggest rap beefs ever, but I only scratched the surface. What beefs do you guys want me to cover in part 2? Let me know in the comments.